Well, hey, artist friends, welcome back. Okay, it's time. We're going to put it all together now, right? We've done a lot of great drawing practice. We've done focus studies of the features, right? The eyes, the nose, the mouth, ears. We've focused on how to do hair realistically, talking about the structure of the face, shadows around the forehead, chin, cheeks, etc. So time for us to now to put it into a gorgeous portrait. Now, this drawing video will probably take you to kind of our equivalent class sessions. So please feel free as we go along to pause the video at any moment, take a break, come back to the drawing, right? I don't want you to get frustrated and give up. I want us to really persevere through this and really create something impressive, okay? Show us that we can really improve our drawing skills as we practice. So first thing I want you to do, go ahead and get that portrait with the proportions laid out, ready to go. And we're gonna finish up a couple things. Now I'm working from my photograph, okay? But again, you could be working with a mirror, you could be working with, like a model in front of you, grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, brother, sister, cousins, mom, dad, whomever's there. In my case, like I said, I've got my photograph, just easier for working on the camera here. And so that you can see what I'm seeing as I draw as well. All right, so a couple things I want to finish up before I get into actually drawing the features and doing some shading, is I want to go ahead and kind of put in the line of where her shirt ends, and also finish the shape of her hair. I may have made her hair a little bit too high initially, so I'm going to go back and correct that line because I don't want it to be like quite so high up. And I'm just going to block in the basic shape of her hair. And she's got these bits that kind of come over the front, and then it comes kind of down around the side of her face. The shape of the hair kind of ends there. She's got this back part of her shoulder. Okay, and then I also want to include in, and her part actually happens a little bit further over this way, doesn't it? So I'm just going to correct that. See, I erase and correct my drawing stuff all the time. You should do the same. All right, I'm going to get that little part of the overlap of the head where it overlaps the skull off, and then let's put the rest of the shape of this hair in here. Okay. That looks pretty good. All right, now let's get into some more, and actually, you know what, her hair kind of comes down in front of the face that way a little bit too, doesn't it? Kind of comes further in. Okay, so let's get to some of our drawing work. So I'm gonna start at the eyes and kind of work in the same order that we did details. Gonna work our eyes, the nose, the mouth. I don't see any ears here. I'll then go into the face structure, right? The forehead, the cheeks, the chin, around the neck, and then we'll focus on the hair at the end. Like I said, let's go step by step again. And of course, if you need to take a break, you want to pause the video, you want to go on ahead without me, now that we've had all this practice, it's completely up to you. All right, so I've already laid out my proportions for my eyes. So I'm coming back down to my eyes here, and I'm going to lay in like we did before. I'm just going to lay in over that line there, the eyeball shape, and I'm going to do a quick proportion check to see, yep, those eye spaces should be approximately, or the head should be approximately 5 eyes apart. I should have an eye space in between each eye, and then an eye space on either side. Okay, now I'm going to bring the shape of that eyelid right over top of the eyeball, and she's smiling, really big smile here. So I see a lot less of the eyeball because it's kind of like she's like squinting almost into the picture frame, if you will. I really want to kind of accurately capture that eye shape. And so she's really, that cheek is really coming up. She's squinting because she's smiling so big, right? It's a cheery picture, cheery model in our picture. All right, and the iris, and somewhere over here, there's the outer part of the iris. And as I draw, I also sometimes erase some of my guide pieces so that they're not getting in the way of what I'm attempting to draw. And I'm going to draw in that eyelid fold now, coming from the corner of the eye over. It kind of comes up. And because she's, a little bit of an older person, that eyelid does kind of fold over and down a little. It all happens as we age. Our skin gets a little bit less elastic. We get those gorgeous smile lines at the corner of our eyes. Okay. And I see her pupil right in the center there. Excellent. And part of the tear duct. Okay. I've got a little shadow line here where it comes up under the edge, and then I'm going to draw in the basic shape of her eyebrow first, and then we'll get to any little details like the individual eyebrow hairs. I'm thinking I want to move the iris over a little bit further. She's really kind of looking more off towards the side this way. I'm going to shuffle that whole piece over a little further and put that in, as well as mark a space for that highlight that's in there. Okay, let's come on over to the other eye here. We've mapped in the space of where that eye is going to be. Let's draw in that initial eyelid shape over it. Kind of comes up and then comes down. And again, she's got a really beautiful smile. So her smiling is pushing her cheeks up and is causing her eyes to almost up. She's smiling so hard she's almost like squinting. Cheek is really pushing up on it. Okay, so here's the eyeball within her eye there. And her iris falls almost into the center here. I'll get rid of the extra sketchy bits I have there, and my marks at the corner. So this part really comes up, and then she's got, once again, these great smile lines that are picking up around her eye because she's smiling so big. And we have part of the eyelid, that upper fold of the eyelid that comes up in her case, and then again it thins out a little bit and then comes down in an arc over here. And once again, we've got that shadow line where her nose is. I'm going to just sketch in the shape of the eyebrow, and then we'll do some shading. Okay, let's map in where I see that highlight there, the pupil. And the eyebrow kind of goes from the corner of the eye just about to the outside corner of the eye. And she's got a really high arch on this eyebrow, so I'm going to bring that up a little bit more. I'm just looking at its overall shape, not at the individual hairs yet. Okay, not bad. There we go. All right, and we've got a little kind of shadow line just underneath the eye there. Okay, so I'm going to pause here. I'm going to do some shading. We'll come back, we'll take a look at our eyes, and then we'll move on to the rest of the nose and then on down to the mouth. So pause for a moment, join me back in a second. All right, And I'm back. Terrific. I've done some shading in my eye area now, as well as I've done some shading around where this the kind of orbital bone of our eye socket here comes out, that front part of the brow bone here, and I've also done a little bit of shading underneath the eyes. Again, go back and revisit our eye shading tutorial if you're struggling or having some trouble. Okay, so let's put in our nose now. So we're going to start with the same way we did our nose before, which is to start with the initial oval. And in the case of my model, the tip of her nose is almost kind of like squared off at the top, and then comes to a point, and then she's got these wider, like they're almost flatter at the bottom, and then it flares out a bit for the shape of her nose. Everybody's got a different shaped nose. Do you know what I mean? But follow your guidelines. Remember, the outside edges of your nose should end right about at the corner of your eyes proportionally. Okay. And should end right about at your nose line as well. Go ahead too, if you still have a lot of really harsh guidelines, as we work past laying in those features, go ahead and erase some of those harsher guidelines we don't need anymore as we get the facial features mapped in. Oh, maybe I'll need a tissue to kind of get some of those crumbs away. Terrific. All right, so now I'm going to start working like we did before after we get the basic like parts of the nose, and I'm going to start working the outside shape of the nose as I view it, where those nostrils are. Case of the outside edge of that nose, it comes out just a little bit further. Actually kind of comes out this way, doesn't it? And in. And that nostril comes way over and down. It's a bit more shallow than that. More like that. And the subtle differences in our faces is what makes us look like us. It's wonderful. It's what makes me look like me and you look like you. And the more you can, get better at observing those little subtle differences in the shapes that you're drawing, the more your portrait is going to look like the person you are drawing. But this, with everything else, like with musical instruments, like with sports, it takes practice all. We're not going to be immediately awesome at it. So I think we definitely have to have some patience with ourselves too. This kind of starts a little bit more over this way, a little bit shallower. Okay. And remember, we have no tattooed lines on the sides of our nose. Okay. We're going to do subtle shading using that kind of curved shade stroke down the sides of the nose, just where we see the shadows happening. So I can see that distinct shadow on the side of the nose there. Then it comes down underneath the ball or the tip of the nose there. And erase any extra guide points I don't need. And we want to avoid any harsh, outlines at the side of the nose too. It's all very soft, subtle shading. A little shading around the outside edge of the nostril here. A little bit that comes under the front edge and the point. This actually flares out a little bit more an angle this way. Okay. That's coming together. Okay, now I like for the sides of the nose, I actually really like to use the tissue because I think it creates a little bit of a softer, and if I still see too many pencil strokes in the side of the nose, I always go back with my eraser. Okay, now in the detail spots, I'm gonna blend a little bit more with the Q-tip, right? And I still see some like too hard of an outline there, so I'm gonna come in with my eraser. Just kind of like soften that little bit there. And what matters is, this sounds awful, but almost it matters less the finished portrait, what it looks like, and it's more about the experience. The more practice you get with drawing, no matter what the visual outcome of it, just the better you're gonna get at it. Just because of the practice. So, you know, don't give up. I think sometimes we give up too easily because we just assume we're either good at something or we're not. And this is practice, folks. This takes practice. It does. So please don't give up just yet, just because maybe you got a little bit frustrated or didn't know what to do next. Try to keep at it. Keep at it. Keep going forward with your drawing. Voila. Ooh la la, we have a nose. Again, we're only expecting, 20 to 30 minutes of drawing work a day. So if you've kind of maxed out at this point, it is okay to take a break. But I'm gonna continue on. I'm gonna keep going here, and I'm going to start with the portions of the mouth. Now I'm gonna check my proportions here because I'm noticing my my mouth and chin and everything look a little high compared to where my mouth should be when I check it on my portrait. So the next thing I'm gonna do, yeah, that's kind of like my bottom lip line. So I'm gonna move my my mouth line because my teeth are open here. It actually kind of like, this is like almost where the bottom of my lip hits here. Okay, and then my top lip comes down and starts more like up here. Okay, so always be checking your proportions. I'm glad I caught that mistake. My mouth would be almost a little bit too far down. But it looks like the width is correct. She's got this really broad smile. It should line up basically with the corners of the mouth. Okay, so I'm gonna start once again with this top bow line of where the top lip bottom edge kind of defines the smile almost. And again, she's got this really beautiful wide smile that's fun to draw. Tricky, but fun. And so we're gonna have that meet right at the corners, right, of the mouth. Those corners of the mouth line up directly the center of the eye. Okay, and now I'm gonna start putting in that swoop of her lip that kind of comes down in and disappears. Okay, over here this side kind of goes down in further this way. Terrific. Okay, and the bottom edge of her lips, I'm gonna erase some of these really harsh guidelines I have drawn in right now because they're kind of distracting me a bit. Now the bottom of her lip, and you can see how off I was on the proportions of the face. See, it's okay. It's gonna happen as you practice your drawing. You're gonna have mistakes too. I make them all the time. And actually, the more I practice drawing, the more I'm able to catch them. Okay, so that's kind of the shape of the bottom of the lip. And just like I showed you before with the teeth, let's get in there and kind of figure out where those teeth end in that smile line. Okay. And then we'll kind of sketch in just the basic shape of where those teeth are gonna be. I think maybe her bottom lip does come down a little bit more here, just a little bit wider. Bottom lip's a little bit thicker. Okay, cool. All right, and then this is kind of the basic shape of where her teeth are gonna be. Awesome. That looks great. Okay, and so now I can start sketching in where I see, you know, her two front teeth. And I'm gonna sketch lightly here because, again, I don't want them to, you know, look too stark, too outliney. So light sketching here. Remember, the teeth are not all the same shape. As the teeth move further away from our visual line, they actually do get smaller. We see less and less of them. So they should not all be the same size and shape, all lined up in rows like little soldiers. No. You want to do a good job really observing the actual shape of those teeth are. There we go, into the back space of the mouth. All right, not bad. Not bad at all. There's the beautiful smile on our model there. And her lip does come right up into that smile point. Remember, no outlining the lips. We're going to do everything with shading. Okay, so once again, I'm going to pause the video here. I'm going to do some more shading work on our, ooh, it's getting a weird cast there, on our lips. Okay, and then we'll keep doing some more drawing work together. All right, so I'm going to pause here. I'm going to do some more shading. I'll join you back here very shortly. Okay, there's some shading work on the mouth completed. Yay! All those teeth done. You'll also notice I added in these little cheek shadow folds where she's smiling, because she's smiling so beautifully. I put those in as well, because we'll use those as little shading guides for when we go to do the cheeks and the chin and everything. But I noticed on my video I'm getting kind of like a weird reflection from my overhead kitchen light. So there, I'm holding the portrait at a little bit of an angle so that I know not the best light for me to be shading by. But there, so you can see a little bit better the drawing work. Okay, let's keep going. So folks, time for us to actually hit some of that in-between stuff, some of that in-between stuff that's happening on our face. So the next thing I'm gonna look at on my model's picture here is I can see actually that she's got this kind of nice, you know, chin shadow here that comes up on her face. Oh, this smiley picture is just cheering me up to no end. I love it. Okay. And we can also see a little bit of a shadow right under her cheek there as it comes up to a corner. Same thing here on this side. That cheek corner really picks up, and we can see little under edge of her cheek bone there. We're gonna have some shadow. And then we've got some shadows underneath her neck, and we'll go for those next. Okay, so I actually want to work my way back up to the forehead. So at the forehead, I can see on my model, on her portrait, that we've got some dark. I'm not going to worry about the freckles right now. We're just worried about getting form. That's something I could always go back to later for detail. But I'm just going to get kind of the sides of the forehead and where the brow bone folds under and kind of goes in a little bit, meeting at the bridge of the nose. So very light pressure on my pencil, not pressing hard at all. Not pressing hard at all. Light pressure on my pencil. And I'm just shading where I see those subtle value shapes on her forehead. We can really see that the lightest bit is capturing right in at the center of her forehead. And it's a curved area, so I'm working little curved shading strokes, little curved shading strokes, little curved shading at the side here. I'll adjust that hairline a little bit, kind of her face shape curves in a little bit that side. Now this is the advantage of regular #2 pencil, like the wooden kind. If you're working with a mechanical pencil, you are gonna find you gotta shade a little, you gotta like adjust your pencil pressure a bit. And you're gonna have to do a little bit more work blending in order to get, you know, those really soft value tones. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna bring in a little bit more shading at the side here. Oh, you know, oh, I just realized what that was. I have 2 pieces of paper joined together, and I was like, wow, I'm getting a really hard line. And that's because as I'm shading, it's rubbing on that fold in the paper, or that joint in the paper, those 2 bits joining together. And I was like, oh, that's why that's happening. Funny. Okay, and then it just all kind of comes in towards the center of the forehead. It's real subtle. All right, so now I'm gonna take my tissue, like to wrap it around my finger. And really do a good blend. Again, you're directing the pencil. You are not just, you know, smearing over everything. You are still directing those values. If it goes too dark, grab that eraser and lighten up. I'm gonna hold that so we're not capturing such a weird angle with the reflections on it. There we go. Okay, let's go down to our cheek area. She's got beautiful cheekbones. So we've got some great shadows to draw. They kind of come up in around the side of her face. So I'm gonna shade beautiful little shadow marks underneath. This little shadow here. I'm just realizing that the hair actually covers a little bit more over on this edge, so I'm just gonna adjust that line there. And you know, the shadows on the face aren't really, they don't have hard edges. They're not really sharp or harsh. They're genuinely very soft because, you know, we have wonderful soft round faces usually. Even when we do have some harder angles in our face, rarely are they you know, hard angles to the point that that, you know, we have really sharp, harsh edges to them. So you're kind of keeping all of your line work and shading really pretty subtle. A light touch to this pencil, a light touch will do ya. Okay, and once again, grab that tissue, do some good blending. Okay, same thing, let's go over to the other cheek. I'll hold my picture at an angle so you can see that better again. Let's go over to my other cheek here. Okay, again, I'm getting into that kind of little pocket of that shadow of the cheek. She's smiling, so, oh gosh, I love a cheery portrait. I do. I love a smiley, cheery portrait. Terrific. Okay, and coming down along the side of the face here, I do have a bit of a shadow that happens on this edge. And then this cheek shape kind of comes up. A little curve here. Keeping it all very light pressure. I'm barely putting any pressure on the pencil at this point. Pressing really light. then bring that shadow down in under that little edge of the cheek there and on the back side of the cheek. Cool. That looks great. Okay, and a smudge again. Beautiful smudge. Nice. Again, really observing the shape of those shadows. Oh, I'm gonna erase some awkward pencil guides I still see from my proportions. So again, let me kind of do a that. You tilt this forward so you can again see without that glare, that reflection that's happening on my pencil a little bit there from my kitchen lights, how that's coming. Okay, and then now on her chin itself and her upper lip, we've got a little bit more. You can see there's a shadow shape right underneath. Make sure this picture's on the screen there. Yeah, right underneath the bottom edge of the lip. So, again, ladies and gents, artist friends, take breaks when you need them. Don't, if you are getting to a point where you're getting frustrated, your hand's getting tired, that is the time to take a drawing break, right? Take a drawing break. Go get yourself a drink of water, stretch your hands, stretch your legs, stretch out your back, right? Don't feel like you have to keep plugging away at it just cause. Okay. All right, and a little smudgeroony here. Again, remember, you are not just smearing the pencil, you are directing it. If it goes a little too dark, you just take your eraser and you touch up. Okay, a little bit more shadow. Coming right up to the edge of the lip. Beautiful. Okay, now directly underneath, we see some of these darker shadows that are happening on the neck, and this is where we can get into a little bit firmer pencil pressure. Not really heavy. There's not a lot of super dark value until we get to the hair on this portrait. But, firmer. It's a curve shading stroke, right? Because of how the neck kind of curves around, think like a cylinder. And then where we lose that shadow, where the chin casts it underneath and onto the neck, it starts to lighten up again. We have a little bit of lighter value here, where it comes down onto the neck where that shadow finishes. Okay, and then once again we'll grab that tissue and we'll smudge. Now I am going to take some time to go back in and add a bit of that freckle detailing. Okay, I like adding little details like that. Really makes a person look like themselves. Remember, again, when you are smudging, you are not just smearing pencil around, you are really directing that pencil. Take time to do that. Okay, and then we're going to move on to the hair. Again, take drawing breaks as you need them, folks. I'm going to tilt this forward again one more time so you can see without the glare and reflection how our portrait is coming along. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to pause here for a moment. Wow, our portrait is really coming together. Okay, time to tackle the hair. So I finished up the skin. I added a little shading underneath the lip. I added some of that freckle detail. Again, I'm getting an odd glare from my kitchen lights. I apologize. Let me hold down an angle there so you don't get that reflection. you can see the drawing work we've accomplished so far. Okay, hair, it's hair time. So again, depending on whatever photograph you're working from, in my case, right, yourself, family member at home, there are lots of different types of hair textures. Remember, we are focusing on the overall shape. We're breaking it into sections, okay? We're going to shade those sections, and then we go back for the detail. All right, so I'm gonna start just by kind of figuring out where this part is, and then I'm gonna start drawing those curls. And here's where I'm gonna I think I'm gonna get just a little bit more artistic with it because, gosh, she's got terrific, what fun hair to draw. These big sections of gorgeous curly hair. So I'm going to get a little looser. You know what I mean? I'm not ignoring my photo reference, but this is one of those moments where we can really have a little bit more creative expression with what we're doing. So again, I'm treating it as sections and pieces of hair. I'm not treating it as spaghetti hair, the dreaded curse of the spaghetti hair. No, you want your hair to be seen as a shape, as a form. We do not see hair as individual strands. And so I'm working off the general shape that I've drawn out, but I'm getting, you know, some of these textures and curls that come outside the shape. With it as well. That looks terrific, good. And the hair is just something we can have a little bit of fun with too, right? Because it's, once we get the overall feel of the texture we're creating and the shape, we can be a little bit freer, a little bit looser with our drawing, particularly after we've done so much tight observation work. Now, if you notice, sorry, I don't think I should mention, if you notice you're starting to smudge across your portrait, use a little shade guard, okay, as you're drawing. Again, get family members in on this drawing action. The fun isn't just for us, it's for everybody to try out as well. Refresh those drawing skills that Grandma, Grandpa may have forgotten since school. This can be some good, you know, family conversations too. Hey, I remember doing portraiture in my, you know, art class in school, or I remember doing this really cool picture of, I don't know, Mickey Mouse or a favorite cartoon character, right? It's a great way for us to connect. Okay, so I've got the hair drawn out in pieces now. I'm going to do the same to the other side, and then I'll join us back to actually start shading the sections. So pause at this moment. Sorry, I'm going to kind of cut out for a minute, come back, and I'll have the rest of this section drawn. Whew, okay, I've got my pieces of hair sectioned. Time for us to get into our shading again, okay? So once again, we're looking at those sections of hair and we're trying to create that illusion that they have that dark to light form on the different pieces, okay? So straight hair or not, okay, straight hair, curly hair, wavy hair, somewhere in between. First, we'll fill in any really kind of dark sections we see in between the hair. It's a nice little trick we can use. And then we're going to start going section by section and doing some of that dark to light shading to start giving these pieces of hair that form. And what I mean by the dark sections is you can look in between the pieces of hair too and shade in some of those dark, and this is firm pressure now, you know, on our pencil when we're working in the hair, because that has some of our darkest value. Although it may not in your portrait, that's true. Should be careful of how I say that. In your portrait, it may actually be lighter value. Okay, so I'm just going through and I'm kind of using my curve shading stroke, doing that dark to light, and trying to create and replicate that wave in curl and value through my shading. Sorry if I trail off, folks, as I'm shading. I'm one of those people who I cannot talk and chew gum at the same time. You know, as I start focusing on my shading work and I start drawing, I realize, oh, I stopped talking as I'm supposed to be giving directions on something. So sorry for that. Okay, so I'm just gonna keep going on here and building in the value work. Again, work on it a little bit, take a break, come back to it. This drawing is meant to take 2, if not more days, right? You may need to take 3 days on it. That's awesome. Go for it. Good focused drawing is worth taking the time to do. There's no prize for it was finished first. I want you to really do well at it. Okay, so I'm gonna pause my video here. I'm gonna keep focusing on doing that kind of dark to light finish on the hair, and then we're gonna rejoin and talk about adding in that hair texture and then doing our final comparison. All right, see you in a few. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, now that I've finished putting in all those kind of dark to light value shapes, shading the actual pieces of the hair, I'm just gonna blend some of my shading, not all of it, because she's got such beautiful textured curly hair. I actually like kind of the energy of some of the pencil stroke that's still in there. And we're even going to go back in and add some more pencil stroke in there as well to define some of the texture, like the individual strands of the hair as well as flyaways. So I don't want to blend and smudge, you know, everything out to the point that it's, you know, you don't see any of that line work. The other thing I want to remind everyone of is when you're doing this blending part, you're blending, you know, you're using that curved, well, because I have curly hair, but you're blending with the curve and form and shape of the hair that you've created. You're not just smudging over it. Remember, right, your blending tool is as important a drawing implement as your pencil. And there's some gorgeous curly hair. All right, so I'm gonna take my pencil and I'm gonna add some little flyaways, like even onto her face, just to soften it a bit so it feels kind of natural. You know, those little bits of hair that kind of naturally come out of our hairstyle. And then I'm also gonna go in, sorry folks, my video cut out for a second. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in and I'm going to just add some pencil stroke and a line texture back into the hair itself, the strands and strokes. And there we have it. There is our portrait exercise together. Let me hold the angle again here because I'm getting kind of an odd reflection from my kitchen light so you can see the shading work. But our portrait's complete. So now it's time for the big reveal. All right, so this is our second portrait, the one that we spent, you know, so much time on. Do your comparison. Whoa. I mean, like, wow, major difference. How crazy is that? Okay, right, portrait 1, portrait 2. It's unbelievable. Look at the gains you have made in your drawing, the gains I've made in my drawing, and I do this all the time. And here, you know, I tried. You know, I spent probably about 30 minutes just doing a quick portrait. But once I took time to really study the face and lay out the proportions properly and do some focus practice with the features, you know, the nose, the mouth, the teeth, I mean, it is a world of a difference, okay, between these two portraits. So, congratulations all. Thank you so much for joining us on this portrait journey. What I'd like you to do, please keep all pieces of your portrait, and I mean all. First portrait, second portrait. Ooh, I almost forgot. Make sure you give a nice artist signature. Ooh, this is one to be proud of. That's right. I'm going to put second portrait too. All right. I want you to also keep all your pieces, right? Your ear practice, your eye practice, face practice, mouth practice, nose practice, because I think this is going to actually make a really super awesome mounted display all together of these portrait pieces that I can't wait to put up and show people when we're back from being out. Okay, so thank you so much again all for joining me on this fabulous portrait draw along, and I look forward to seeing you all again in the art room.